Hi, everyone. As you're coming in, welcome, welcome. We'd love to know a little bit more about who all is joining us today. So, as you're joining, please share a little bit in the chat about where you're joining from, your district, your role, your grade level of students that you're working with. We'd love to tailor our conversation today, make the most of our time together by knowing just who all is with us and who's joining us today. So, we'll give a couple of minutes for everybody to shuffle in. And as we get started, share a little bit about who you are in the chat. And then we'll get started in about a minute or two. We'll say at 1:03, we'll really jump in. Great. I'm seeing some entries in the chat already. Thanks so much for joining us. All right. I see we've got a lot of different roles. We've got superintendents, we've got principals, we've got classroom teachers, which is awesome to see that full scope from school districts, from individual classrooms, from programs like Boys and Girls Club. Wonderful. Great. All right. Thank you all for joining us. Today, our focus is going to be on aligning STEM and bringing STEM into the classroom with a special emphasis on New Mexico standards, bringing in those standards for the state of New Mexico, how we can bring in a STEM focus within the classroom or in out of school time, what those STEM programs can look like. If you're just now joining us, please do share a little bit in the chat about who you are, where you're joining us from, your role. We're going to be asking questions, answering questions, and sharing ideas in the chat today. So I want to make sure everybody is really comfortable getting started there. By way of introduction myself, my name is Hope Thompson. I am a senior manager of curriculum and instruction at Next Wave. I'm a former elementary science teacher myself in Baltimore and in Chicago Public Schools. And before my time at Next Wave, I've also held roles in instruction and curriculum for robotics courses in pre-K through 12. I really love to mention those pre-K students, especially because just as a reminder, whenever we're having conversations around STEM, that there is a path for all students, including our pre-K students, to be included in those conversations. There's a place for all students in STEM, and there's a place for STEM in all students' lives. So I'd like to highlight that whatever student community you're representing today, we hope to have you leave today with some ideas and inspiration for bringing STEM to your students. And I'm joined also by Tarita Aurora. Tarita?
Thank you, Hope. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the webinar. I'm really grateful for our time together. And I just want to quickly share that I'm working with New Mexico. Right now, we are working with Albuquerque School District, and we're really enjoying how we are helping them to implement these programs that we offer for K through 12 catalog. And I would be more than keen to understand what stop you guys to implement these kind of programs. Though we'll be discussing a lot of about STEM and standards. But if you guys are facing any challenges that stops you to implement these programs in your schools and district, please do drop in chat and I would love to help you. I'll be sharing my contact information as well as catalog information as well. And you can reach me out individually as well. Thank you.
Thanks so much. So getting started, I just love to know a quick snapshot of what STEM is looking like at at your district, excuse me, your schools, your classrooms, whatever group you are representing today. What does STEM look like right now? So does that mean from a scale of 1 to 4, 1 being you're interested in STEM, you're not really integrating a STEM program just yet. Maybe you're just getting started, or your district or state has launched a priority or a directive to get this sort of initiative begun in your schools. Maybe two, you've implemented some STEM programming, a standalone project, a STEM night, an after-school club, some attempt to bring STEM into the school communities. Three, you have a STEM curriculum or a resource of some kind. It's as stated and felt priority at your school or district, but we're still building buy-in and fidelity. Or four, maybe you have a year-round in-school STEM program with variable success or fidelity, and you're just trying to get a better idea of what's available, how to integrate STEM into the school day or out of school time, what a STEM program can look like now that you have the resources. Great, seeing a great mix in the chat, a lot of twos and threes. It's great to see that our audience today has sort of gotten started. Hopefully, wherever you are on this scale, you'll be ready to move up a number or two by the end of our time today. But it's great to see that we've already got twos and threes joining us. A lot of our resources that we're going to discuss today are really going to help focus in on that, bringing 2 to 3 and 3 to 4. And you're already ahead of the curve because 70% of the schools that we surveyed had no STEM curriculum. So if you are beginning to bring in something a little bit more regular than a STEM night, an after-school club, or STEM PBLs in the classroom, you are ahead of the curve. But if not, you're not alone. A lot of schools are in the same boat, which is why we're here to be a resource to you. So, as introduction for Next Wave, our mission and our work, we believe the world needs young innovators. So we offer these hands-on courses in emerging technologies to give students the opportunity to build confidence, to be designers and creators in these technologies, not just consumers. We want to empower our educators to prepare students for what we have long called the careers of the future, but more and more the careers of today, and also the world that students live in. They encounter these technologies, they hear about them, talk about them, use them, and so it's our obligation to prepare students to do so effectively throughout their school career and their lives. When we talk about STEM, I want to be specific about what we mean because it can be this overarching term that's thrown around a lot, and it can be a little bit nebulous as to what that really looks like in the classroom. So when we talk about science, technology, engineering, and math and how they come together, especially as a standalone concept and a set of skills we want students to have, we're going to focus on these three pillars. The first being the process of STEM, the engineering and design process of imagining, creating, and testing ideas in this ongoing iterative cycle where students get the practice in creating, having ideas, and testing them out. We're also going to think about the technologies that have emerged as a result of experts engaging in that design process. Things like robotics and drones and AI, technology that is interesting and engaging in its own right. There's a value in bringing technology into the classroom as a place of inspiration because it builds engagement and buy-in for students who are curious about these technologies, but also as an example of what the engineering design process can do and vehicles to practice that third pillar, which is the computer science and digital fluency skills that students need to be building. Things that you're going to see aligned with standards, whether it's those engineering standards that are part of the NGSS and your state standards that have been adopted. You're going to see some of those engineering standards too. But the computer science skills of being able to understand algorithms, to build sequences of codes, to think critically about technology, how it affects our lives, what trends we see moving forward in our culture and society. So all of our STEM programming that we're going to discuss today is going to focus on one or all three or some combination of these three pillars in order to be a well-rounded STEM program. And when we think about reaching those goals, hitting all three pillars, we see schools and districts successfully implement STEM in two major pathways. On one side, we have standalone STEM instruction. If it is a directive or a priority from your district,
Hope you're frozen.
I think it's her network. She should be back in a minute or two.
Everyone, Hope is having some difficulties with her internet, but she'll be right back. Meanwhile, Tarita, can you talk about next wave STEM a little bit?
Yeah, I noticed someone posted about having supplies, but not having the staff. I was going to answer that. We are focused on making sure that we are equipping educators with standard line curriculum and the PD, which Hope will share in detail as well. Our goal is that if you have educators who are willing to teach the courses throughout the year, then we have plenty of supports in terms of professional developments, teacher supports that can be used in tandem with planning, and it doesn't require a lot of time on teachers' side so that they can focus on preparing the lessons in a well manner and deliver it with fun as well. So we do have options where teachers can get started without having any STEM background. Paula, can you not can you not hear me?
So sorry, I'm back. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your patience. I'm just going to jump right back in.
That's okay, Hope. No one fell off the boat. I'm proud of everybody that's here. Thank you for your time and patience.
Thank you all so much. All right, let's get at it.
Hope you're muted. I don't know if that.
That technology or those skills. We're going to focus first on standalone STEM instruction, what that can look like as a model, and we're also going to talk about the integrating STEM into core subjects later on. When we have that dedicated STEM time, we can really hone in on the computer science standards and the skills that we want students to build. Now, from K through 12, they're building on the same 5 categories of skills. We're going to give a little bit of an overview of these. If you have familiarity with computer science standards, you know that they're a little bit more specific than each of these, but I want to just give an idea of that scope since we do have educators from K through 12 today. So one of those first categories is computing systems. So understanding what kind of technologies we're working with when we use a computing system, understanding hardware, software, what happens, the input, and what we're getting as output, and understanding skills around troubleshooting and using technologies, devices like Chromebooks and iPads for most of our students. There's also networks in the internet, understanding the transmission of electronic data, Wi-Fi's, security, and understanding the networks that all of these ideas are shared upon. Data and analysis is a really great opportunity to get some of those integrations with other concepts and other standards. Touches on a lot of the same concepts as some of those math standards around data and science standards around representing and understanding and interpreting data. A lot of that is replicated in the computer science standards as well. Algorithms and programming is where the heart of those computer science skills that students will use to code are held. So understanding what it means to decompose a problem and sequence for our youngest students, that means How do you brush your teeth in the morning? Step to step. For our oldest students, that's going to be complex coding with text-based coding languages. Understanding how to test and debug a program, identifying bugs that students have maybe unexpectedly built in. That trial and error and reiterative process is a part of coding that cannot be avoided. So it's a great opportunity for us to work with students in building comfort with failure and building on new learning experiences as a result. And then applying these skills to solve problems in our world. Why are we coding this digital artifact? What is the purpose? What problem does it solve? How does it improve our life or work? And that ties well into the impacts of computing, that all students from K through 12 are going to examine how society and the ethics of these technologies have changed. We're going to talk about concepts like bias and accessibility, and we're going to explore career paths when it comes to these skills that students have been building. So to give you an idea of that progression from K through 12, I've pulled a similar standard from each of those buckets, just from algorithms and programming and impacts of computing, so we can see an example of a more specific language. So for the same concept, understanding, debugging, and perfecting, refining our programs, our K through 2 students are just practicing the concept of identifying and fixing errors in a very simple program. Our upper elementary students are understanding the concept of testing it, noticing what's not right, and then debugging. Whereas our younger students may have had a bug identified, or this teacher has demonstrated a test, had a little bit more scaffolding around finding those bugs. At middle school, our students are introducing more systems to test and refine. They're offering a different range of test cases. They're using their robot program in different ways, in different environments. They're running it with different variables to help find those bugs. And then our high school students are doing those same skills, but with a little bit more of an advanced lens of usability and accessibility. So how are the bugs that we are identifying, the test cases that we are running, helping to ensure that this digital artifact, whether it is an interactive chatbot or a robot's program to solve a problem, is maximally accessible to all users. And then how can we make sure that those test cases that we are creating are systematic as well? So combining different aspects of the building that they've done throughout this progression and also deepening their learning. We're seeing a little bit higher order thinking in these upper grades in our middle and high school versus the impacts of computing, maybe not so heavily in the skill building of coding. This is where we're talking about how these technologies have impacted our lives and will impact our lives. Our youngest students comparing how people lived and worked before and after technology, something they're likely doing in their social studies standards as well. Upper elementary, understanding the computing technologies that have changed the world. So our focus on that technology being more advanced. How is it influenced by cultural practices, and how does it continue to influence cultural practices? With our middle schoolers, now we're getting to a little bit more of those higher order thinking skills. Those verbs that we know are going to tip us off that we're a little bit higher in Bloom's taxonomy. So we're comparing trade-offs in technologies, how it's affecting career options, more of those justification evaluation skills that continue. They are evaluating how technologies impact our personal, ethical, social, economic, cultural practices. Our humanities teachers right now that are thinking about those social studies, those ELA skills that can really play into this. And we're also predicting trends. We're thinking about how these innovations have revolutionized aspects of our culture and how they continue to evolve, especially as a lot of these technologies have picked up the pace in recent years. We are involving our students in conversation around where these trends are leading us and how we might react and respond and be a part of the evolution of emerging technology. So with these particular standards, any one of our next wave STEM courses or any number of different topics can help meet all those different standard sets. Some are going to focus more on this, the algorithm, the programming. Others may focus more on the engineering and design process or the impacts of computing. So with your school, your district, your state, community, you can put together a suite of courses that touch on all of those concepts and cover each of those standards in turn. It might depend on where your focus is. At Next Wave, we put together these custom bundles to help guide schools who maybe want to focus on, for example, the computer science skills. I really want to focus in on those algorithm and programming skills. What collection of courses are going to be the best fit for those? Maybe we have a new maker space. We want to focus on the engineering design process. We're going to bring in some computer science skills because we want to have integrated solutions to the problem solving project students are doing, but we also want to build a little bit more competency in the engineering and design process, kind of offline first. So you can put together different combinations of different courses that fall under those three pillars that we discussed at the beginning to make sure that your STEM dedicated STEM time is comprehensive. I want to show you as an example one of these pathways. So along the top here of our course, you're going to see all of our pathway topics: robotics, drone, AI literacy, 3D tech, innovation, sustainability, and game design. They all have different standards that they're going to focus in on most especially. So I want to look at just one example of a K-2 pathway, our robotics. We start with our through 2 students who, again, there's room for even our pre-K through 2 students in the conversation around STEM, understanding how some of the skills we build in ELA and math lend themselves to computer science skills as well. So for example, we can use breaking down a story into pieces as an example of decomposing and sequencing, and then build on those skills using a technology that is all hardware. We're not transmitting data between hardware and using software to understand how what we've written is being transmitted. A simple robot like Colby Mouse Robot, where the inputs that students are giving the robot are right there on the device. So they're using Colby to tell stories, to solve problems, to draw numbers. And I've pulled a couple specific computer science standards for you so you can see what exact alignment you're going to find with a program like this. Students are modeling the way programs store and manipulate data. So they're understanding that I can input forward, forward, turn, right, forward, forward, and my robot will not move until I press that green run button. It is storing that data until the final input. And what the robot does as a result is the output that I will get. We're developing programs in sequences. Maybe we're even starting to think about simple loops, which make our programs simpler and more efficient to express an idea or to address a problem like getting Colby to his cheese. So we're building on more of those foundational skills with a really simple technology that we'll get to expand on in the upper elementary levels. Our 3rd through 5th graders are getting to use a little bit more of a complex coding language. Now they're using a block-based coding language where the pieces are already planned for them. Students fit them together like puzzle pieces, maybe input a little bit of data, like how many seconds I want the robot to wait before it lights up. How many degrees do I want this robot to turn? How many revolutions per second do I want the wheels to be turning? How fast do I want it to be going? So they're using a more complex language, building those computer science skills. And then they're also getting to see different levels of hardware and software at use. They're using sensors. They are building more complex programs. They're using things like events and variables and loops to make efficient programs that can do more complex things. Again, I've pulled some of those standards so you can see these are straight from the New Mexico computer science standards. These are just a few as an example of the 3 of the many standards that this particular course or similar study of robotics would touch on. They're also working very collaboratively. So our students are getting experience in some of those 21st century skills of collaboration, creativity, communication, critical thinking. They're getting all of that built in while they're building these programming skills. Our 6th through 8th grade students, our middle schoolers, we want to use those skills and bring them back to being rooted in problem solving. How do these relate to solutions that help improve our world? So they're building more reactive and more responsive programs, using sensors to have and logic to have a robot respond in real time without additional input from the coder. Building competitions and engaging in their classmates competitions and challenges where it's asking them to be a creator as much as a user, and they're not just experiencing this content, they're getting to create challenges for each other around it, and making sure that we're bringing things back to the point of these technologies to improve our lives and work. So how can we practice those problem solving skills? And 9th through 12th, we want to push towards more industry level skills. So students are still coding, problem solving, but they're using more complex languages. So can we push our students from block-based programming to text-based programming? A language like Python, something that computer science experts are using while they're building solutions out in careers in the quote unquote real world. They're exploring, in this case, manufacturing automation, how we see robotics show up in the world of manufacturing with a really simple single board computer like the microbit and a collection of attachments. They're doing things like simulating a sequence of a conveyor belt bringing red and green M&Ms down along, a sensor sensing the color, and a sorting wand pushing those M&Ms into different tracks. So with a collection of motors, the sensors, wands, the conveyor belt, students are building autonomous sequences that simulate what kind of automation we see in the world that students can then pursue careers in. And that's going to touch on the computer science standards for 9 through 12. It's also going to touch on a lot of CTE standards where we see engineering, manufacturing, and the marriage of the two. We're going to have a lot of that come up for these kinds of courses as well. So we're pushing students again towards those skills we've developed as K through 8. Let's make them more complex by introducing an industry level language. Let's make them more rooted in what career paths we can explore with these skills. And also let's make sure we are highlighting how these are impacting the lives and working worlds of the user. A great example of what a standalone STEM time partnership looks like with Next Wave STEM is our partnership with Albuquerque Schools. I know we have some people joining us today from Albuquerque who are maybe getting started with our program or mid-year on our program. It's a great example of how introducing our content at the district level puts the autonomy in the hands of teachers to implement the programs that make the most sense for their classrooms by offering all our suite of courses in a grade band or all of K through 12 to a district. That allows teachers to say, well, this robotics program is great for my dedicated STEM time. This innovation program is perfect for the makerspace I've just launched at my school. The drones program is a perfect way to implement some great technology integration in my math class as we practice measurement and the coordinate plane. So teachers have the ability and schools have the ability to say, this is what STEM programming can look like at our school. Here's how we can bring it in to the classrooms that have the most need for STEM integration, whether that's standalone time or, as we're about to dive into, integrating STEM into course subjects. So for schools and districts who don't have 20 minutes of the day to dedicate to STEM or an after-school program or a block that we have a full 60 minutes because they have art on Tuesdays and STEM on Wednesdays, we often see schools who choose to integrate STEM into core subjects. How can I bring in a little bit of that engineering process, those technologies, or those computer science skills into the courses that I'm already teaching, into the instructional time that is protected in ELA or in math or in science. There's a lot of different ways to make this happen. You can use an AI course in building interactive chatbots to build a chatbot that is a historical figure and is a cumulative artifact for a student to show their understanding of a historical figure, or a character from a book in their novel study for a middle school ELA project. There's different integrations that we could focus on today. I'm going to focus on just one in particular, which is bringing STEM into life science. This is a collection of a linked standard from K through 12 in life science. We're going to see students from each of these grades interact with one technology that could breathe new life or enhance or improve an existing unit that they are already doing with their science teachers. So just as a snapshot, our kindergartners, these are the standards that we're going to see touched on here, using observations to describe patterns of what plants and animals need to survive. By second grade, we're planning and conducting investigations to determine what plants need to grow. In fifth grade, we're supporting an argument that plants chiefly get what they need from air and water, which is going to be very key. Our middle schoolers are constructing explanations about the environmental and genetic factors that influence the growth of an organism. And then our high school students are designing, evaluating, and refining solutions for reducing the impacts of human activities on the environment. And the technology, the STEM integration opportunity that can impact all of these courses, whether it's in one building or across a district, is hydroponics. This is just one example of how a single technology can be integrated into existing instructional time. If you haven't worked in hydroponics or been familiar with it before, it is the growth of plants without soil. So using a shelving unit and a physical material for roots to hold on to, and nutrients that are manually added to the water that's filtering through the system, plants are growing with the use of only water and light. So students can see in the classroom this 2 foot by 1 foot and about 2 foot tall shelving unit goes from these empty seed cups at the beginning of the unit to an overflowing garden. Many of our courses end with students having a little salad party with the leafy greens that they've grown throughout the semester. It doesn't take up a lot of room in a classroom, so it makes a great way to revamp an existing life science unit. I taught the second grade what do plants need unit many times, and there's still room for the lima bean seed on a wet paper towel in the window. But this is a great way to bring in a little bit more opportunity for students to see some technologies and build new skills in STEM as well. But at the same time, it can make an impact in a fifth grade and an eighth grade and a 10th grade classroom as well. For our youngest students, it's going to hit a lot of those plant standards and offer a lot of opportunity to observe in a really controlled environment. So K through 2 students are getting parts of a plant. They're getting supportive text and roots, seed dispersal, how we see plants show up in our world and our food, but they're getting a little bit more of a controlled environment to do so. I can say from experience that seed on a wet paper towel on the windowsill is not always the world's most controlled and consistent experiment. You may not always get the results that you were hoping for. So doing that kind of project alongside of having a hydroponic system allows students to understand what kind of factors influence the growth of an organism long before that middle school standard shows up. It also is a great way to revitalize. If you've been doing it year after year, our veteran teachers who have done this life science unit for a long time. Our 3rd through 5th graders are getting that same exposure, but they're also getting this environment to practice the conducting and planning of experiments. That part of the standard where students are practicing the practices of a scientist, the verb-based standards that the NGSS and that New Mexico State provide us. We get to see students designing experiments to understand how plants grow with different liquids, lemon juice versus vinegar, distilled water, tap water. We're also getting to practice ideas of scientific observation and data collection, data interpretation and representation, the activities of our Next Wave STEM content, but also just having a hydroponic system in the classroom provide this chance for students to see growth at different rates, different plants, that is consistent and also weatherproof. So you're not waiting for the best time of year to be growing. In middle school, we again want to bring those concepts back to problem solving. How does this impact the world that we live in? How do hydroponics pose a potential solution to issues around things like food deserts, produce availability? The cumulative project for this grade level is designing a hydroponics program that can sustain a team of astronauts in a space exploration expedition. How can they design a system that will sustain them? So making sure that these skills are rooted in the problem solving and the impact on society, culture, and humanity that is so important to the evolution of emerging technologies. By the time we're looking at our high school courses, we want to broaden that lens to industry and career. So where does hydroponics fit into a larger program of agricultural sciences? So we look at hydroponics, but also concepts of irrigation, land management, pest management, agribusiness. In an early lesson of this course, our high schoolers grow wheatgrass. Later on, they blend that wheatgrass into a health drink and get a picture of how our crops end up at our table. And then they design a business plan to bring that health drink to market. So understanding the interplay of those industries, thinking a little bit deeper in the application of these skills towards potential careers. Now, having explored the standalone STEM time and just one example of how a single technology can bring a STEM integration into a core subject, as an educator myself, I know the bottom line is the quality of those resources that we are providing our students with. And I can vouch for and stand behind 100% the standards aligned course content that Next Wave STEM provides. We are aligned to science and technology standards as we went through today, to the NGSS and the CSTA standards, which are the root of the New Mexico science and computer science standards, respectively. We also do have ELA and math support. So that means if you are looking to do the integrated STEM approach, you know where you're going to get that double alignment for your standards. What kind of data analysis and representation math standards are we going to be touching on today? What kind of ELA standards if I'm building that chatbot that acts like the character from my novel? What kind of ELA standards are we going to touch on there? So you can find the best way to integrate into the best possible subject. And also those 21st century skills that I mentioned, collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and creativity, really built into the STEM approach that Next Wave STEM uses, but is also explicitly aligned as all of these skills, the computer science skills, building a program, understanding sequencing, are most useful if they're paired with the ability to share those ideas, to have a creative approach, the kinds of things that 21st century skills promote. You can find us in universities programs, programs in New Mexico. And as for what these courses actually do provide to educators, includes a course guide as an overview of what to expect throughout the course, the STEM alignment, the materials. And then 15, because our courses are at core, 15 lessons long, 15 teachers' guides, where teachers are getting highly supportive content. If you're comfortable with the content, it's not your first time teaching computer science, great. But if it is your first time, they're highly scaffolded even for the instructor and include a great deal of self-paced PD resources. Presentations to share with your students, worksheets, answer keys, and summative assessments to track your students' learning. And scope and sequence documents, which will in detail outline the individual standards by lesson and by lesson objective. All this is hosted on our online teaching portal alongside our self-paced PD resources. And I want to highlight our resources are available in English and Spanish. So if you have a bilingual classroom, our student-facing content of presentations and worksheets are also available in Spanish. I want to give you one last look at our course chart. Those pathways across the top: robotics, drones, AI literacy, 3D technology and design, innovation, sustainability, and game design. All of these are going to focus on different aspects of those computer science, maybe core science, especially our sustainability pathway, math, and ELA standards. Any combination of these can make a great program depending on how frequent your class is meeting, what the goals of your school are, whether you've just opened that new makerspace and are looking to launch, whether you've got a really talented new cohort of STEM and computer science teachers joining your district. We're happy to work directly with schools to help pick out a suite of courses that would be the best fit for them. But we also do provide full access to all courses in a grade band or from K through 8, so that your teachers can lead the charge in deciding what the best way to implement on a classroom or school-based basis would be. Like I said, the best example of the quality of instruction is in these lesson plans. I would love for you to check out our curriculum samples. As a former educator, I think they are a dream. I'd love to take a lot of these courses as a fourth grader. If I could design a video game that I could test and play on my own, I'd be delighted. As a teacher, I'd be even more excited to teach that. So please follow this link or check out our website to get to download those curriculum samples. Take a look and see for yourself how supportive they are, including things like differentiation options to help as a jumping off point to meet the needs of all your students. All of our presentations, our student worksheets, and our PD resources are really well developed with teachers in mind. So we will stick around for a little bit to answer any questions that you may have. If you'd like to come off of mute or put any questions in the chat, Charita and I will be here. Charita's also dropped some resources in the chat for you to review if you'd like to look at our catalog or meet with
Miss
Charita.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Miss Atler is here, I noticed. So if we can invite her to talk about her experience with us, just to share.
Absolutely, Ms. Atler, if you'd like to share a little bit about your experience implementing Next Wave STEM, I know it would be really helpful for everyone here who'd like to visualize what this might look like in their district.
Absolutely. Thank you and welcome, everyone. We have just recently started to implement Next Wave STEM in 4 of our school sites, which have a K-12 environmental STEM pathway. So it allows us the opportunity to take some of those same concepts and move them through elementary, middle, and high school. We are still working through the login in order for us to implement it, have higher implementation at the school sites, but we like that it is in English and Spanish, and again, that it goes from K through 12 to help us keep those themes aligned.
Thank you so much, Ms. Atler. We are so glad to be partnering. So we're delighted that it's been a good start and that it's been a good fit for your school so far. We are available as a resource if you would like to discuss how we might fit best at your school, your district, your state, whatever. I know we even have some community organizations. So if you're thinking about how this might work best for a Boys and Girls Club, an after school program, we've had a large variety of programs, including summer camps. So we are more than happy to talk through what implementation can look like. And there's nothing more I love than getting in the weeds with teachers and getting to really imagine the best program for your students. Like I said, we'll stick around for a couple minutes. If you want to ask any questions in the chat or come off of mute, Tarita and I will be here for a few more. But thank you all so much for joining today. It's been great to see in the chat where you are all joining us from and what the best needs for your schools will be. Thank you so much for joining.
Hope someone asked if it is already a part of APS.
Michelle, I was just responding to that in the chat. Sorry, just saw it. I believe that it is only available to schools that have purchased the program. So they are APS vendors. We have it right now that I'm aware of at Los Padillas, Mountain View, Polk Middle School, Rio Grande High School, and I believe I want to say Zia, but or Inez. They're using that, but it's just individual licenses and not a district license.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will talk to my STEM teacher and see her thoughts on it.
Great.
And for the individual license, since we are K-5, we would just look for the K-5 license. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. And that's part of the catalog that you sent in the PDF?
Yes, Ms.
Yes,
Waldrop, that's also there. Yes.
Okay, thank you. How much? I'm sorry, so that's already in there?
No, we haven't shared the pricing, but I can share that quickly. We have made some changes in the pricing and we are making it individual teacher licensing for $5,000. This way you have all the courses available in the entire catalog. So we are offering all the K through 12 programs with that teacher licensing. But if you're looking for K5 else, K5 only, that is also manageable and we can talk more with all the questions you have on a call if you want to set up a time with me. I've shared my link
Okay.
with you in the catalog.
Okay, thank you. So if it's an individual teacher, that would just be my STEM teacher. So that would be the 5,000?
Yes,
Okay,
but she will have
that's what.
access to all the K through 5 programs, and if you're K through 12, then you'll have all the K through 12 programs. Yes,
Okay, that's what I needed. Thank you so much.
no problem.
Any other questions or ideas or things you're thinking about bringing Next Wave to your district or school? I have to warn y'all, I'm out of the classroom. I'm not afraid of a little bit of wait time, so I will hang out. But thank you all so much for sticking with me through my technical issues and joining us today, sharing and interacting in the chat. I really appreciate it. We will be sending out this recording as well on Monday, so you can review some of the ideas that we went through today. And thank you again so much to Ms. Atler for sharing a little bit about what Next Wave STEM implementation has looked like so far at APS. And we hope to hear from more of you soon. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, everyone.